Well, it's nice to be with you on 9:30 on a Sunday morning. I wasn't needed at the cathedral or at St. Regis this morning, and so I kind of had the day off, and Father Jay gave me a mass or two. So this is nice to be with you, and especially on a cool morning like this, the commute wasn't too bad. So if you're like me, and today is Epiphany, so we're kind of like, we're kind of finishing off the Christmas season. And then as Tom was saying, that tomorrow we'll celebrate the baptism of the Lord. But then after that, this coming week, we'll get back into ordinary time and the routine of everything. And in some ways, it's kind of sad. In some ways, it's kind of nice. And, just to get back to the routine. But if you're like me, the stress of it all is I'm kind of glad to have it behind me. And I love Christmas, don't get me wrong, and I love, all the things that go along with Christmas, and especially the spiritual part of it, and looking at the Christ child in the manger and everything like that. But then there's a lot of stress involved with it. And for me, one of the stressful things is buying gifts. I hate it. And if you're like me, you procrastinate, and you don't, then the hardest thing for me is to know what to get people. And I remember one of the rough years when I was going over to my parents' house, and my sisters and I and my brother were going to exchange gifts, and so I got them gas cards at the gas station on the way over. And that was, for me, that was one of the rough years, because I never know what to get people, and I never know what the right thing is and which I should get them and what to do. So I always have a difficulty with that. And so it struck me today, the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh. Like, why? Like they open their treasures, which is great. But for us as Americans, we're pragmatic, we're practical, and we think, we need to get people what they need. Well, what's the baby going to do? What's the Christ child going to do with the gold and the frankincense and the myrrh? Well, maybe the gold, maybe he could go sell it because they were outside at the stable. Maybe they'd have more money to get to the inn. But then the frankincense and the myrrh, I mean, what does that get them? Like, what was the practicality of that? And as I thought about that a little bit more, and I thought about, really what they were doing, what the kings were doing, was just to give Jesus what they had. I'm sure that they didn't know what to get them. They didn't think about it a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot of thought that went into it. And they just, whatever they had with them, they gave to the Lord. And that was their gift. So I was thinking for us, what are some practical gift ideas for the Lord for this year? And I think, from our own treasures, the first thing that we can do is just give him time. Time, not just coming to Mass, but then also just time in prayer. Time just to be with him and spend time with him and be apart with him and just give him something of ourselves. And I know it's hard because then we say, I don't know how to pray. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do in prayer. And I don't know how it's supposed to go. And I don't know all the different things that you're supposed to do in prayer. Well, to be honest, none of us do. St. Paul even says it in the letter to the Romans. He says, we don't know how to pray as we ought. But what the Christ child wants from us is just the gifts of ourselves. He's not looking for diapers. He's not looking for wipes or anything like that, but he's just looking for the gift of ourselves. And then I think the next gift idea, just to offer to the Lord, besides our time in prayer, what about our own fears? That's what he came for. He came to be the Prince of Peace. He came to take away all of our fears. And so we can just name them for him. Lord, this is what I'm worried about. This is what you need to reassure me with. This is what I'm worried about today. Or I'm worried about this week. Worrying about somebody's health. Or I'm worried about something with my job. Or I'm worried about something with money. Or I'm worried about not understanding this person. Or I'm worried about my relationship with this person. Lord, these are my fears. Just take them from me. This is for you. And then I think the last maybe gift idea that we can bring to the Lord is just our own sins and our own mistakes, because that's what he came for, to take that from us. And yesterday I was talking to gentleman who's a prison guard. And one of the things that amazed me, he's a very faithful Catholic and prays a lot, and he's just a great evangelizer. But he says, when he's in the jail, he works at Greene County at SCI Greene, and he said to me, the amazing thing is a lot of times the inmates feel that they can't be forgiven. And they're just going to continue in the same way of life because, they murdered somebody, they robbed somebody, they shot somebody, whatever it was. And they think, well, God can never forgive me. And so I'm just going to continue this path. And how sad is that? But that's what Jesus came for, right? Is to take that away. Is to remove all of that from us. He doesn't want that burden to carry us to have to carry that burden. And so no matter what it is, no matter how bad we feel about it, no matter what the sin or how weak we were or are, no matter what it is, that's what the Lord came for. That's what the Lord came to pull from us, to take from us. That's what he wants from us. So I think this year, those are just some practical gift ideas for the Lord. Instead of gold, frankincense, myrrh, which maybe weren't too practical for the baby Jesus. Our gift ideas don't seem too practical for him either, but they are. Our time, our prayer, our fears, and our own mistakes, our own sins. And give those to the Lord. That's what he wants from us.